Hey everyone, Mr. Macintosh here. Now that we've got our Sequoia 15.3.2 update video for our supported Macs done, the fun begins because now we get to test it against OpenCore Legacy Patcher for unsupported Macs running the latest version of 2.2.0. We're going to bring out the entire testing fleet of 11 different unsupported Macs. We're going to run through a full demo of installing the update and the root patches after. Plus we got a lot more to cover, including the big spring release of macOS Sequoia 15.4, which is coming out next month, that is causing a couple issues with unsupported Macs. Plus the 2.3.0 is in the works. We're going to cover that and more next. Okay, first let's get into what the 15.3.2 was released for and what is included in it. In my 15.3.2 article, I always have a section here just for unsupported Macs. I put the current version of both operating system and OCLP and the current tests that I've completed so far. I also put the status of the Kernel Debug Kit here and a link to the releases page and the MetalLibSupport status and a link to the direct download for that. When we talk about what's included in the update, we can take a look at the patch notes. And this is why we want to talk about it. We want to see whether it's worth installing on your unsupported Mac, because we know that the process is a lot more involved than it is to update your supported Mac. So if we look at the update release notes directly from Apple, and I already talked about this update provides important security fixes and recommended for all users. Notice how there's no bug fix part, only security. If it said bug fix here, I wish they would put more about what the bug fix was, but for here, they only talk about security fixes. So if we go up to the security section of the 15.3.2 update, we can see what's included in here. And this issue was for Safari and WebKit. And this is a pretty severe one, and Apple put this out to be able to fix WebKit and Safari. So for 15.3.2, Safari is included inside the 15.3.2 update. If you are running Sonoma or Ventura, you're still on 14.7.4 and Ventura 13.7.4. There was no associated update along with 15.3.2 for these two OS, but there was a Safari update for these two OSs, 18.3.1, that you will see in your software update, and you should update that. And you can see that on my manual Safari page for Sonoma here for 18.3.1 and macOS Ventura 18.3.1. So I do fully recommend installing the updated Safari to get fixes into your unsupported Mac to protect you against that vulnerability. With that said, this is a minor release. This is your major, this is your update for features usually number, and this is for hot fixes, emergency fixes, or security updates. When we see a little minor here, we can give an idea of what the update's about. I also wanted to mention the other version of macOS Sequoia 15.3.2, and that's 24D2082. I mentioned that because if you see that on the download pages, that is only for the new M4 MacBook Air, M3, M4 Mac Studio. It will not work on any other Mac, so that's why we need 24D81, and the good news is that's already been programmed into OpenCore Legacy Patcher not to list this version in the downloads part if you're building an installer. Now in the last OCLP video in 15.3.1, I talked a lot about the Kernel Debug Kit process and the MetalLibSupport process. New viewers might be thinking, what the heck is this guy talking about, right? So let's just take a moment to rewind a little bit and go over each one of these really quickly to explain what they do and what Macs they are for. If we look at the Kernel Debug Kit first, we will see this note, and we talked a little bit about that last video on how there's some timing issues in being able to download the latest version of the Kernel Debug Kit and the MetalLibSupport package. And there is a note here that kind of talks a little bit about what we explained. In some cases, OCLP may require packages to be obtained from the internet, such as KDK or MetalLibSupport package, and if they do not exist on the system. In these cases, OCLP may install only the Wi-Fi driver in the first patch run, and this is very important to understand. And I wanted to call this out because I've seen this. Someone says, hey, I installed the patches and my system's still running, so I got a white background, everything's slow. That's because just the Wi-Fi driver was downloaded so you can get the KDK and the MetalLibSupport packages after the reboot. Not every system version does that, but some of the particular ones that don't have Wi-Fi do. So that's why when you come back up, you got to run it again. It'll be able to download these packages, and then you'll be good to go. Root patching has to be run again after that manually to install the rest of the required patches after the internet connection established to obtain these required packages. That's also with the timing of not being able to download it ahead of time before. Now, I did talk to McCall about that, and I mentioned that, so hopefully they will have a chance to take a look at that before the next release, but that's still unknown whether that'll be looked at. So now we have that out of the way, let's take a look at the KDK. Now, this is the KDK KDK support package from the GitHub, and this is where the patcher downloads the KDK from. So if we go down here, we can see 15.3.2. And if you watched my 15.3.2 supported video, this was not here at the time. The Kernel Debug Kit is created by Apple. That includes all the drivers for work with Xcode or any kind of testing. The patcher is waiting for Apple to release this. So if Apple doesn't release this immediately, it's just not there. And then we have to go back to the 15.3.1 for now. We talked about how that's okay and that's compatible, usually within 1 or 2 versions. Once it's available, then the patcher can pull it and you can be all square with the versions matching with the version of the OS and the Kernel Debug Kit. For example, this one, it came out just yesterday, and that was after my video was done. So if anybody updated between then, you do not have the latest debug kit. So you have to go there, run those root patches like we talked about, and you will then get the latest build. Now, if we take a look here, you might be wondering, well, wait a minute. I keep talking about this, but does my Mac need the Kernel Debug Kit? We've got the information page here and what is required. With macOS Ventura and newer Macs with an AMD Legacy GCN GPUs need the Kernel Debug Kit, and here's some machines that require this. The Mac Pros 2008 to 2010 and the 2013 trash can, iMacs from 2009 to 2016, and for example, a 2015 MacBook Pro. But we also know that 1.1 USB machines, for example, 15-inch 2008 also requires it. So these are older devices that still require certain patches, basically 2010 and older, and then anything with an AMD GCN GPU needs the Kernel Debug Kit. But what about the MetalLibSupport package? Is the same thing. This is another part that was added for support for macOS Sequoia. So if you're on Sonoma and under, you do not need the MetalLibSupport package, and we can see this right here. With macOS Sequoia, the MetalLibSupport package is required to be downloaded for all 3802 based systems. OCLP will handle this as long as you're connected to the network. We can see NVIDIA Kepler, so 2013 and 14, and Intel Ivy Bridge and Haswell. We can see the list here for Intel Haswell and Ivy Bridge 2000 machines and all the way up to 2013 and 2014 to 15 systems. So that covers what machines need the MetalLib and what machines need the Kernel Debug Kit or the patching system. If you have any questions about the Kernel Debug Kit or the MetalLibSupport package, let me know in the comments. I want to do something a little bit different. I wanted to add some questions that you put in the comments of the previous videos about OpenCore Legacy Patcher. I read all of the comments. I wish I had more time to respond to all of them, but it's extremely difficult, and I'm sorry for that. But I do read them, and that's why I wanted to highlight some of them now. This string right here is where I can't tell you how happy I am to see the commenters working together when we see an issue. And this one has to do about WhatsApp. I want to learn more about this because I see a lot of the comments talking about WhatsApp, and there's a problem ever since 15.3.1 hit. You've reported that in the comments. I've seen that, and I've seen people talking about it. So let me know what's the current situation about WhatsApp. In the next video, I'm going to install that on some of these machines, and we're going to get better testing results so we can see what's going on with that. The next comment here comes from Mac Sound Solutions, and what a wonderful channel. And I want to put this up on the board right now. Give Lance a subscribe. Check out his videos. He has a wonderful channel. You really should check it out. All kinds of different things with MacPro, OCLP, Mac Mini, all kinds of things. Give him a follow and take a look. While we're talking about channels that I enjoy watching, another one is DMUG, or formerly Definitive Mac Upgrade Guide. Greg Gant has some fantastic content reviewing different items, talking about gaming, different items about OCLP, looking at different hardware. Absolutely fantastic channel. Take a look. He does some wonderful content here. Last but not least, Jesse's Flying. Check him out. He does OpenCore Legacy Patcher update videos, and he also does tutorials for all kinds of different things. Check his channel out. He's doing a lot of Windows stuff and crossover gaming stuff right now. Check him out. Give him a subscribe. So Lance goes in to talk about, after applying the root patches, that he was having some issues with screen flickering after login, after the installation of the KDK package. That can also get messed up with a black screen, and if you have the emoji little guy, for example, your login windows here, you got your little circle emoji guy. I recommend turning that off and turning that to a picture of whatever you want, and that can help out with that. If you get that black screen and you can't log in, power down the Mac, bring it back up, and you will be able to do that. It's just that first screen after the update is installed, it's hard to get back into the OS to be able to apply the root patches and follow what he was mentioning about after the KDK and the flickering screen with the emoji. Turn that emoji off. JSMerd says here, I have a MacBook Pro mid 2012 15-inch non-Retina running 14.7.3 and it runs fine. and I'm not comfortable updating to version 14.7.4 when Apple doesn't even list what's in the new update. You know, I hear you right there, and I call it out every single time. Why should I install this update if I have no clue what's even installed in it? Now, Apple does do a good job putting the security updates in there. The other parts, not so much. So in this case, I wanted to cover more on Sonoma and Ventura, but there's only so much time. And I've noticed that all the attention is usually all heavy duty on the latest OS version. I used to be able to cover it because I had a little bit more time. I'm not saying I'm ruling it out, and I would like to cover Sonoma because Sonoma is super solid and so is Ventura. Maybe I can do them both together at the same time and cover that. But I totally hear you, and I wish I could cover that. It's a tough call right now. The good thing to know is that Ventura and Sonoma are both in security update release mode, so there really isn't too many bug fixes to kind of screw up the system, so that is one good thing going for it. Michael Davies writes, after several attempts, update started but failed to reboot via system settings to 15.3.1 running OCLP 2.2.0 on a late 2013 iMac. I found success by turning on automatic updates and downloading the OS in the background. The update then took literally hours to run in the background, and eventually the machine rebooted and upgraded. If you turn that on and then turn it back off, that's fine. You just don't want to keep that on and then run into the situation where you're trying to root patch. So for example, 15.3.2 came out, and if he's trying to do work on a system, like he needs to repatch and unpatch because he's working on something or he's troubleshooting, he won't be able to do it because he's got 15.3.2 staged already. And that's why I tell everybody to turn off those automatic updates. This also leads into the problem with Kepler 2013 and 2014, and how I mentioned that I was having problems with the software update being able to load and properly do it. What I'm going to do next time is I'm going to uninstall the root patches, bring it back up, and then the update should run, and we'll be able to test that next time. Bobby Z says, hey, you didn't list a 27-inch 5K iMac. Is it supported? Any problems you know of? Let me know if you can. Now, I did cover those guys before, but they take up so much room. They're heavy as all heck, and I don't even have any room to store them in the office. If you are running an iMac and you want to do it, I can bring them back. Tell me if the coverage of the 5K iMac 2015 and the unsupported non-metal 2011 was good to have those machines out there. Let me know. There's definitely more people. It's just those things are such a beast to do. At least with the Mac Mini and the trash can and the laptops, it's a little bit more easy to handle with all these machines all over the office. Up in the Sky 63 wrote, I opened up the OCLP app on my MacBook Pro mid-2010 15-inch on Big Sur, and it proposed me to update to OCLP 2.2.0, and then I updated and then rebooted. Now it's impossible to complete the boot. My computer's stuck on the white bar. Progress is to a third. It does not move anymore. What can I do? I have talked about this in previous videos, but it's hard to kind of work that in where everybody sees this part. The bottom line is 2.2.0 on non-metal 2011 and older machines is completely broken right now. So if you're running macOS Big Sur on a non-metal Mac, you have to run a previous version of 2.1.2 and everything will be fine. In your situation, because you already installed it and it's broke, what you have to do is you have to reboot, hold down Option, and then hit the space bar on the EFI boot screen, and then click macOS Big Sur Recovery. Once you're into recovery, just click Install macOS Big Sur. That will write over all the old patches, reinstall the operating system on top, leaving all your data there, and then you'll be able to downgrade to 2.1.2 and you'll be good to go again. You can go into the settings and then turn off the update dialog to prompt you until it's fixed in the patch notes. Let me know if you like going over these question comment section. I thought it would be fun to be able to go over some of these. Let me know what you think of it. Okay, our demonstration Mac for the full update to macOS Sequoia 15.3.2 is our MacBook Pro 15-inch 2017 with the T1 security chip and the touch bar. And that's why we picked this guy, because there's a lot of things going on, and it also requires the Kernel Debug Kit as part of the install. So that's why I like to demo this one, because it includes all the pieces. Now, if you're a pro and you've done this so many times you don't want to see this, I have no problem with you skipping ahead. That's why I put detailed chapters in the notes below so you can go to exactly the part. I know these videos are long. If you only need to get to the certain part, I have no problem with you going to the part that you need. But for new people who are still finding the channel, who want to be able to see how this process goes, that's why I give you a full walkthrough on how to install the update. So all we need to do is go into system settings, and you'll see that there's a 1 here, and that means that the system has already checked and found the update. Now all you need to do is click on the software update or click on general to software update. It'll immediately start to check for the update. Even though it shows that the 1, it'll still check just in case it finds a newer one than the one that it found. And there it is, 15.3.2. For more information, you can click more info in here and you'll see all the information about it. Notice how it has the full text in here. It's the full update, meaning that it's thinking that you're doing a jump from macOS Ventura, Sonoma, and you're wondering what's included in Sequoia as the entire operating system. That's why it shows all of the pieces here. Now you see it's 15.22 gigabytes. That's totally normal. That's what the unsupported Mac requires. And all you need to do is hit update now. When we talked about the unsupported Macs and the turning off the automatic updates, that's right here in the security responses. Click on this little eye. I wish it was showed it like a button. Most people are not going to understand that you can click on that. But this is what I tell everybody to turn off. If you're a new user, you got to turn this off. And here's that KDK download dialog that you get. You want to click on OK, and it'll download the Kernel Debug Kit 24D81, the latest version. This is what I tell you to turn off here. And once you turn that, all the downloads are for the new updates will be automatically turned off. You can actually turn on install the updates too, but we have that off along with that. I do leave the security responses so the Gatekeeper and the XProtect updates can still be downloaded in the background. So now that that's done, we'll let this download here, and we can see that the Kernel Debug Kit is downloading at the same time. And when I show you what happens here at the very end of the downloading part, we're going to see what actually happens. So if I go in here and I open up where the Kernel Debug Kit is, we'll go to Library, Developer, KDKs, and that's where we'll see that. So what it's doing now is it's saying preparing the software update. What it did here is it put the package right here. Notice how it's not installed. You can tell the KDK is installed when it has a folder. All it does is stash it. It doesn't install it until it comes back up to install with the root patches at the same time. Then you'll see the folder put there of it all unpacked, and then that's how you know that it's been installed. So that KDK is ready to go for when we apply the root patches after the update. Now that that's finished, this part can just finish, and you can see that it's almost done downloading here, and then it's going to change to the preparing mode. Now this is going to prepare the update, and when that's done, you'll get a box up here that will say it's ready to restart. Click on restart. It'll apply the update, and then after the update is complete, the OS will come back up and we'll need to install the root patches. And then we'll pick up the video right when that is complete. Okay, we're back up after installing the 15.3.2 update on our 15-inch 2017 MacBook Pro, and we can see the automatic patcher came up saying it needs to install the root patches. We'll click on OK. Now what is actually happening in the background is the KDK is installing. We can open up Library, Developer, KDKs, and we can see that when this is done, even though it says it's downloading, it's actually installing. It's sitting right here. It's installing all the packages, and when it's done, you'll see a folder here that says 15.3.2. So we'll give it a second to finish here. There it is. We've got our folder there. Now the root patch is going to kick off. It's going to use the files from the KDK to apply to the patch, and you can see it's now merging the KDK with the root volume. It's going to continue on to finish patching. Okay, patching is complete. All we need to do is click on reboot and restart. Alright, we're back up after the root patches, and we're good to go on our 15-inch mid-2017 MacBook Pro. The next thing I wanted to talk about was macOS Sequoia 15.4. This is currently in beta and is a big update known as the spring release because it's going to include a bunch of new features, security fixes, bug fixes, and new enterprise features. And it usually takes a little bit, and it goes through multiple beta releases before Apple releases it because of all the changes that are happening. And it's also the last big update before Apple announces the next OS, which is macOS 16 at WWDC in June. I never really recommend installing macOS betas on your device unless it's on a test system that you know might get screwed up and you can rebuild it, because a lot of times these betas are unstable and there's no support for OpenCore Legacy Patcher for your unsupported Mac in there if there's a big change. And this user, unfortunately, CoolKid418, found out after testing 15.4 beta 2 that the machine's not booting. And that could be so many different reasons, right? And again, because Apple makes the most changes in the spring release, that's usually when things need to be fixed inside OpenCore Legacy Patcher to be able to resolve those issues. So again, I recommend not installing the betas of macOS Sequoia unless you have a system that can go down and you can rebuild it. With that said, now let's talk about the next version of OpenCore Legacy Patcher. As of now, it looks like 2.3.0 will be the version. I say looks like that because this can always change. You might see two things in here and think, wait, that's all that's in there after a couple months. Don't even worry about that because all this stuff's added later on all these changes and it's currently in development right now. A lot of times the next version is currently in progress to be worked on while these updates are coming out, as long as something major is not broken. If something seriously breaks in macOS Sequoia, for example, in 15.3.2, the one that we're talking about here today, then a 2.2.1 might be released to fix that issue. But even though 2.2.0 is a little older now, it still runs great for macOS Monterey, Ventura, Sonoma, and macOS Sequoia. So that's the current line use, and that's why we're testing it here today, to make sure we don't find any issues. But we can see a couple notes in here to get a little bit of a sneak peek on what to expect. One of the things is to disable crash analytics, and that was put in, but it was disabled on the server side for years, so that it is removing on the client side. And then the other thing is, and you heard me talk about this already, is the big change on how to install OpenCore Legacy Patcher. Remember, we used to just download the app and then put it in the applications folder. That's going to be fully deprecated, and in 2.3.0 you will not see this anymore at all, and you're going to download the OpenCore package and install it just like a regular application installer, and that will finally get rid of some of the confusion that users might have had when they saw two different versions there. But I know other things are being worked on, so again, we'll see these later, kind of like filled out with the 2.2.0 in here, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a sneak peek of what is being worked on 2.3.0, and we still don't know when that's going to come out. My guess is somewhere around 15.4, which we just talked about, because of all the changes that are being made, but it could be before or after. It's unknown at this point. Okay, our first test Mac is our early 2016 12-inch Retina MacBook. This little guy is still cooking. After all this time, it's got a 1.1 gigahertz dual-core Intel M3, 8 gigabytes of RAM, and it's running Intel HD Graphics 515, and we're running 15.3.2.2.0. We do not have a Kernel Debug Kit because we're running Intel graphics here, and we do not have a MetalLibSupport package. This is a nice demonstration unit that does not require any of those pieces. We do have the Apple SLK graphics system extension that pops up when you're installing the root patches, and that's normally you get a little pop-up box, and that's why I put that on there. Everything's working with Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and Wake Sleep. Now remember, I've mentioned this in previous videos, but if you missed it, if you see your Wi-Fi icon and it is grayed out, all you need to do is kind of drop kick it a little bit, and then it'll come back to life and you know you're good, and that'll last that entire session. So that's our early 2016 12-inch Retina MacBook. Next up is our 2014 15-inch Retina MacBook Pro. This is our Kepler-based Mac that we were having a bunch of problems trying to get software update to load properly. Like I said, in the next video, I'm going to test when we get our next update. I'm going to uninstall the root patches in here. I'm going to click this. I'm going to click on revert, let it reboot, then see if software update responds a little better. I think it will, and that's my next test. For now, I just had to kind of go back and forth, go in, go out, keep trying to load it, and it finally was able to load and install the update. We have a 2.5 quad core running 16 gigs of RAM. This thing's running very, very well, and these Retina Macs are just wonderful used units because they got the horsepower to run and they're still very reliable. We've got our modern wireless, our PCIe FaceTime camera, and we're running an Intel Haswell. We do have our MetalLibSupport package here, 24D81 and 15.3.2, that we did get after installing the OpenCore Patcher here, and that installed just fine. And we did get the Apple HD 5000 graphics extension pop up, but everything else is running very well on this Retina for 2014 Kepler. Next up is our MacBook Air 11-inch, early 2014. This little guy's still kicking. It's got a 1.4 i5 and 4 gigabytes of RAM, 15.3.2, 2.2.0, Intel Haswell modern wireless. It does require the MetalLibSupport package. We did get that 15.3.2, 24D81. Everything is running good on this little MacBook Air. Next up is our late 2013 Mac Pro trash can. This guy's still cooking. We got 15.3.2, 2.2.0 on here. We have our AMD Legacy GCN, so that means we need our Kernel Debug Kit 13. That means we need a Kernel Debug Kit 15.3.2. And if we check over here, guess what? We didn't, because we updated this before Apple released the Kernel Debug Kit yesterday. What we need to do is, we're on 15.3.2 and everything's running great, but we still want to be in alignment with the KDK and the version of 15.3.2. All we need to do when you're in that situation, like I've shown you before, go into OpenCore Legacy Patcher, click on Post Install Root Patch. It will check and say everything's good, but we know we need this. So we're going to hit root patching again. and there it is. It found the 24D81 Kernel Debug Kit. It's going to download that, install that, and we will be finally equal and good to go. Next up is our MacBook Pro 13-inch mid-2012 9,1. This machine's special because it has the most installations of OpenCore Legacy Patcher than any other model out there. And the reason is because it's, first of all, affordable. It also was sold from 2012 all the way to 2016 because it was one of the last models available at that time that still had a super drive for DVDs and CD-ROMs. And it was really great for education and budget-minded customers. And it also ran really well. It was very reliable. You could upgrade the memory, you can upgrade the SSD. Wonderful device. This one's running a 2.5 i5 and 4 gigabytes of RAM. We do have Intel Ivy Bridge, so we need the MetalLibSupport package 15.3.2 here that we do have, and everything is running really well on this 9,1. Next up is our Mac Mini server, late 2012. If you're unfamiliar with the server version, this machine came with 2 spinning hard drives that you could set up in a software RAID 0 or RAID 1 striped. And it was really a unique system. And this one has a quad-core i7, so it's a really nice little machine that runs very well. We are running 2.2.0 and 15.3.2. Now, if you notice right here, we're in our MetalLibSupport package folder. We do need to do the root patches to get that latest version that just came out. We do need to run the post-root patches again, just like we did with the KDK in the last one, because we can see that we need to be able, and now it's downloading because it wasn't able to pick it up before because it did not check before while it had the internet access, but now it does, and we know we need to double check again so we can be in full alignment. We'll let that install, and we're good to go on our Mac Mini server 2012. Next up is our MacBook Pro 17-inch late 2011. Let's do a quick check-in here. Are you still watching? If you are, type in macOS 16 in the comments below. You are the true VIP Mr. Macintosh viewer, and I truly appreciate you. I appreciate all my viewers, but especially the viewers that watch all the way to the end of these long update videos. Now back to our 17-inch beast here. As you can see, we are missing our 15.3.2 KDK. No big deal. We'll run those post-root patches again, and we'll pick it on up on the second time through, and we will be good to go. Once we get into the non-metal machines, that's when we start having problems with our metal heavy apps like maps and stuff like that we end up having to deal with. But that's okay, because the fact that the system is still running very well for late 2011 is a great thing. I noticed that once we get into 2010 and below, I've said in the past, that's when we start seeing some pretty good slowdowns. And in this area, anywhere between those times and all the way up to about 2012, if we're running lower memory like 4 gigs and a spinning hard drive, not an SSD, that's when we start to see some serious slowdown. Those are some of the things that I've noticed running hardware going back this far in macOS Sequoia. Up next is our 13-inch mid-2010 polycarbonate MacBook. I love this little guy. It's a great little laptop. I love the white finish on it. It is just a beautiful laptop. It was designed mostly for education markets. So a lot of teachers use this, and a lot of students in college use this MacBook because it was affordable, really durable device. This one's the top of the line, 2.4 gigahertz Core 2 Duo, running 4 gigabytes of RAM. We do have the Kernel Debug Kit 15.3.2 on this system. Our little small tidbit of information, ASentientBot, which is one of the lead non-metal developers, uses a polycarbonate 13-inch MacBook, so that's pretty cool. Next up is the top of the line 2010 cheese grater Mac Pro. This machine is upgraded with a metal compatible Radeon Pro WX video card, upgraded Wi-Fi Bluetooth card, Broadcom BCM43, and AMD Polaris graphics. So this thing's running very well. We did get the Kernel Debug Kit 15.3.2, and everything's running very well. Last but not least is our 15-inch late 2008 MacBook Pro. This is the oldie but goodie, and do not recommend Sequoia on this machine because it is slow, and that's why we test though. It is possible, which is still amazing, but again, do not recommend. We're running 15.3.2. We did have the latest KDK all installed, and this machine is running, but a little bit slow, and that is expected for being now 17 years old. We're doing shout outs in this video, and we're going to continue on with some of the OpenCore Legacy Patcher developers and contributors. First of all, Ventura, who is responsible for the OpenCore package as well as many of the OpenCore texts and tools. And of course, Dina K and Makola for being the main co-authors of OpenCore Legacy Patcher, Ostauer Spoiler, Vit9696, Edu Kavas, and a sentient hog and a sentient bot who put together a lot of work on the non-metal packages. We got CDF, Syncretic, DOS Dude, Parakeek1, Barry KN, Mario Bros Tech, Arter97, Flaggers, Joe VT, and Jasny. All these people are critical and put so much work into this patcher, and we all thank you so much for all your hard work. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks.